I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Marissa Schrieber. I am the Fire and Life Safety Educator for the new Lenox Fire Protection District. I'm also one of the Matter of Balance coaches, which is for falls prevention in the area as well. So this is going to be kind of a two-part presentation. We're going to start off with a little bit of fire safety, which we feel obviously working for the fire district is extremely important. Just even as a refresher, I know a lot of us are adults in this room, or all of us are adults in this room. So just kind of good refreshers and reminders about things sometimes are always good to have or to pass along to other people. You might learn something new today, and to take that with you is the only thing I ask for. So, and then the second half is going to be about falls prevention. So if anybody happens to have any questions at the end of the presentation, we are taping it today, so at the end of the presentation, I'm happy to take as many questions as you have for me at that time. So this program today is actually called Remembering When, and it's through the National Fire Prevention Association, the NFPA. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So the first message that we want you to think about is if you smoke, smoke outside, or if you know anybody else that's smoking, smoke outside. You always want to use deep and sturdy ashtrays that are outside too, so they aren't falling over, causing any kind of fire that way. You want to try to wet any kind of cigarette butts, as well as the ashes. A lot of people don't think about wetting down the ashes of anything like that, but that can also start a fire. It can get really hot and it can reignite. Never smoke in bed, and never smoke if medical oxygen is used in the home. Believe it or not, of smokers who have home fires, 7% of those have oxygen tanks. So it's actually a fairly large segment of people who are smokers when they have a smoke, that's what caused it. All right. So we already know that there's usually going to be places, if we're outside of businesses and things, where they usually have maybe special ashtrays and things to use outside at those types of places. So if you are a smoker or know someone, make sure that they're using the designated areas so that they have the right places to go. Space heaters. We are slowly getting cooler outside. I know no one wants to think about it, but many times we're going to be using space heaters coming up here in just a couple months. With that, we want to keep them at least 3 feet away from anything that can burn, including you. So you don't want them too close to drapes if you have drapes that hang down. If you have any magazines or books or anything like that lying close, maybe have them in a basket somewhere. Anything that can ignite, you want to try to keep that as far away from those places as possible. And always make sure that you're shutting those off when you go to bed as well. So I mentioned a few things that can be a little bit close to space heaters. So when you're doing that, just kind of pay attention to where you're placing things if you are using that space heater, just so we make sure that it's not so close that, again, things start on fire. When we are cooking, this is always a big one. And whenever I go out, I always have, like this morning, I was teaching preschoolers in New Lenox, and one of them was telling me about how his dad was cooking and had his kitchen towel too close to the stove and started the towel on fire. So I'm sure many of us have experienced, not necessarily that, but our smoke alarms going off because we're frying something and maybe not paying attention, those kind of things. So first of all, when we are frying food in the kitchen, we want to make sure that we never leave that unattended, that we're always in the kitchen anytime we're using grease and fire, because we know that grease fires, we don't want to put them out with water because they're going to get bigger, and we want to make sure that we're there. So if you ever happen to have a fire on your stove, we always like to say put a lid on it. So take the lid to the pot and put it on top. That's going to go ahead and it's going to smother those flames. Just like we need air to breathe, our fires need air to breathe. So by smothering that out and putting that lid on top of the fire, you're taking away their breath, and that fire is going to get smaller. Always use, when you're let me start over. When you're cooking, you want to wear clothes that aren't so loose fitting. You don't want any kind of sleeves that droop down, because I know I've noticed it sometimes when I just thought, oh, I just need to cook something, and then I go over and I have a sleeve that just happens to be hanging down a little bit more. Well, if for those of us, especially with gas fire or gas stoves, that's live fire coming out of it. You get too close to it, you could have a situation where your clothes catch on fire. And what are the 3 things we have to do when our clothes catch on fire? Stop what we're doing, don't run, because that's going to make the fire bigger. Get down on the ground and then roll back and forth until it's out. For anyone who can't roll, you can always take a big blanket and try to pat it down and smother it out that way as well. Always, of course, use oven mitts anytime we're trying to handle hot pots. Again, burns don't feel good. You want to make sure that you have your oven mitts on so that when you go to touch anything that could be hot, you don't burn yourself that way. And then also, if you are on any kind of medication or you've been drinking anything, make sure that it's not made you drowsy at all, because you want to really be paying attention, and you don't want to accidentally walk out of the room and fall asleep sitting in the chair or something and think, oh, I'm going to get back to it. One rule that I like to do when I'm cooking myself, I always have a timer. If, let's say, I'm baking cookies or something, I actually take that timer with me into the living room or wherever I'm going so I can hear that alarm when it goes off. Sometimes too, if I'm cooking and I can step away for 2 seconds if I'm not frying anything on my stove, sometimes I'll bring that oven mitt with me, or bring a kitchen towel or a spoon or something to remind you that, hey, I'm cooking in there, I have to go back. I can't just sit down. Simple, easy things to do that are going to help you make sure that we don't have kitchen fires. I just mentioned stop, drop, and roll. So that's what this slide is going to be about. So if our clothes catch on fire, if we happen to be in the kitchen cooking, if we're outside, a lot of us now have chimeneas or little fire pits in the backyard. Sometimes we're standing too close. And like I always tell the little students too, there's those little sparks that like to jump off of those big fires. And if they land on you, there is that chance that our clothes can catch on fire. So we want to make sure that we know exactly what to do. And again, never run, because when we're running, that fire is getting bigger because it has more oxygen to breathe. So if we stop what we're doing, lay down on the ground and roll back and forth, that's going to go ahead and that's going to put out those flames. If you do get a burn, you're going to want to use cool water. For about 3 to 5 minutes, go ahead and put that burn underneath that cool water. If it's a pretty bad burn, please call 911 immediately and get us out there. We want to make sure that you are taken care of as fast as possible with that. Smoke alarms. This is a really big thing too. Make sure that your smoke alarms are working. You should have one on every level of your home. Right now, it's also supposed to be one in every bedroom, as well as one outside of your sleeping area. In New Lenox, we do have a smoke alarm program, and Manhattan does as well, where we in New Lenox provide, and I believe they do here in Manhattan now too, we provide free 10-year battery smoke alarms. We've partnered with the Red Cross. So if someone does need a smoke alarm, we're happy to come out and install that for you for free. I have an unlimited supply, so if you're in New Lenox, please call me. You'll see me and someone else come into your home with a ladder and drill, and we'll get you taken care of. They do that here as well in Manhattan. Just want to make sure that everybody knows that. However, if you do have interconnected alarms, our smoke detectors do not work for that. But the interconnected ones are the safest ones to have. I feel most homes starting in the 1980s started to be built with that. What interconnected alarms are if you're upstairs, but your smoke alarm is going off in the basement, it's going to make every single alarm in your home go off, so you're aware of that. Whereas if I don't have interconnected alarms, my smoke alarm is in the basement, but I'm upstairs doing something, I may never hear it. So I want to make sure that those are all working. If you have batteries in your alarms and it's a slightly older one, Make sure that you're changing those batteries out about twice a year. We always like to say, know your alarm. So when you change your clocks, change your batteries. The newer smoke alarms that are out now, they have 10-year sealed batteries, so you don't have to worry about doing that. You just want to make sure that you're replacing them 8 to 10 years out. Okay? All right. So we want to make sure that everybody then can hear the smoke alarms in the house. There's also special alarms that people can get. Sometimes if you're hard of hearing, you can't hear those alarms going out. They have some that will shake. They have other ones that will light. They also have some that will talk to you, and they'll say, hey, there's a smoke alarm, get out. Or they might also test your CO at the same time, your carbon monoxide, and it will yell at you, there's carbon monoxide in your home. It's time to leave. And so they talk to you and they let you know which one. There's a lot of different options out there, so knowing what's out there is always good. You can always call your fire departments and we'll talk to you and let you know what some of those options are. And again, we should technically be testing our smoke alarms once a month, just making sure that the batteries are still good. Sometimes they may not start beeping at us for some reason to let us know it's time to change the battery. So just making sure that you test it not by cooking and burning food, like a lot of my little kids tell me that their parents are doing, or myself, I have done that multiple times too, but actually go up there, hit the test button. You can take a broom handle, anything like that. I actually have a stick that has a little pointer finger hand on the top that I can use. I know it's kind of goofy, but it reminds me that I need to go ahead and check those alarms. We also need to know 2 ways out of every room. So anytime you go somewhere, take a moment just to look and see here in the room that we're at. Here we have a couple different directions that we can go to get out of the room. Think about your bedroom. How would you get out? You have the door that you go in and out of every way. Worst case scenario, we all have a window that we can go out, right? I know a lot of us have bedrooms on the 2nd floor, so there are special ladders, things like that, that you can also get to help you get yourself out. Shut the door if you're stuck in there and can't get out. Call 911 and we'll get there as fast as we can to get you out of that bedroom, okay? Make sure that your windows and doors are going to be able to open easily, that you don't have a lot of like clutter or anything like that in front of it, so that it is easy to open those doors if you need to, or your windows if you also have to. Also, if you hear that smoke alarm sound, never stay inside, always go outside and then call 911. Fires are burning hotter and faster now than they ever have before, especially with a lot of the new materials that everything is being made out of now. And because of that, it's extremely important to get outside as fast as you can. We don't have the 10, 15 minutes anymore. You have more like 3 to 4, because fire doubles in size every minute. All right. Also, in some places, it used to be that 911 wasn't necessarily the emergency number. In this area, it is. So anytime you have an emergency, we just have to know about calling 911. Once we escape the fire, again, make sure that's when you call 911. If you don't have your phone with you, go and bang on your neighbor's door and have them call for you. Making sure that you plan your escape. So if you have any kind of disabilities or anything that you know might restrict you in case of an emergency, make sure that you plan your escape around the abilities that you have. Have a telephone in your bedroom in case you get trapped by any kind of smoke or fire. Also have any other necessary items near your bed. If you have a list of medications, maybe your glasses, if you need any kind of walking assistance device, if you use a scooter, cane, anything like that, try to keep one somewhat close to your bed so it's easier for you to get out in the case of an emergency. Okay. The next thing that we're going to talk about, so we just did a lot of talking about fire safety. Again, I'll answer any questions you have if you think about them. So on the other page here, the first page was about preventing fires. We're going to go now to the opposite page, and that's going to be about how to prevent falls. Falls are going to be the most common cause of non-fatal injuries and hospital admissions for trauma. In 2010, 2.3 million non-fatal fall injuries among older adults were treated in emergency departments, and more than 662,000 of those patients were hospitalized. We get quite a few falls in the New Lenox Manhattan area as well. I would say usually around at least one a day or so on average. So it is a big issue that we have, which is why it's really important, especially as our population is aging, that we want to get people to understand about falls and some ways to help us prevent them from happening, because we know that anytime someone falls, it could change a lot of things for us. So with that, a fall tends to increase an older adult's fear of falling. This fear can also lead to a decrease in activity, which leads to reduced mobility and fitness, which can also actually go back and increase our risk of falling. Because what happens when we don't move, our muscles stop working the way that they should, right? They actually atrophy. So we want to make sure that even though we may have fallen and we have a light fear, we don't let that fear get in the way of us wanting to do things. We're just going to have to find new ways of doing those things so we keep moving and we don't let that fear basically paralyze us. So one thing we can do is making sure that we are exercising regularly. Exercise is going to build that strength and improve our coordination and balance. It's definitely key to making sure that we are doing what we can and keeping our balance and our mobility going. Tai Chi is one exercise that has been proven to help with the reduce fall risk. We do have some Tai Chi classes in the area. That's always something that's great. I know there's a couple people in here, at least one that does do Tai Chi on a regular basis. There's also very simple exercises. I mentioned the Matter of Balance course that we do. That's an 8-week course in this area. We offer those classes multiple times per year. They're 8 weeks long, 2 hours once a week. And you're gonna learn all sorts of different exercises. Some of them are as easy as just doing this or opening and closing your hands. You learn a little bit of stretches, anything like that you can easily do while you're cooking, while you're sitting and watching TV. Maybe while the commercials are on, you decide to do a couple things. Really, it's about getting your body up and moving and making sure that we're just not sitting all the time. So, but before you start any kind of an exercise program, always make sure that you talk to your doctor to make sure that whatever it is that you're going to be doing is okay for you as well. Always make sure that you're taking your time. Make sure that you're getting out of your chair slowly. When you get up and out of bed, I know for me, there's been times where I get up too quickly and I go to take a step and you just think, I shouldn't have done that so fast, right? Because depending on what medications we're on, maybe if we have a cold or something too, sometimes that messes with our balance issues. And there's been a few times where I've been somewhat sick myself and I get up and out too fast and you kind of have to grab a wall or grab your bed or something like that. So you want to make sure that instead you sit up, you give yourself a couple seconds and then slowly move out of your bed. Same thing is going to be to stand and get your balance before you walk. Again, you don't want to stand up too quickly. And then be aware of your surroundings. Myself, my dog likes to sleep on the floor half the night on the side of my bed. So there's many times I grab my cell phone because it's on the nightstand. I have a little flashlight that's on it that I'll turn around, or I'll just hit the button to light it up and say, is he there? No, I'm good. And then I can walk. So that's just one little example. But who knows if you have other things that maybe they fell down. If you have a cane or something that fell on the floor, you don't want to trip on that. If you had a sweatshirt on before you went to bed and you didn't feel like putting it away, so you just laid it on the floor. Simple things like that. Just make sure that that area is clear so we aren't creating a trip hazard and tripping over those. Making sure that we are keeping our walking areas and our stairs clear. Anytime there's an electrical cord, make sure that those are pushed off and out of the way so that you're not trying to walk over those, and that could become a trip hazard. Shoes. How many times do we just want to come in the door, kick off our shoes, and be happy that they're off of our feet for the day, right? So those can be in the way very easily, especially next to doorways when we're coming in and out of the house. So always making sure that if you are someone who doesn't like to wear the shoes in their house, that if you have them by one of the doors, that you have them nicely lined up so they're not just kind of laying all over the place. Clothing, again, if we have jackets and things and we just lay them off, sometimes maybe they fall on the ground. They could become a trip hazard. Books and magazines, we all get those, especially magazines and random things coming in the mail. Sometimes we want them, sometimes we don't. Just make sure that you're putting them up where you're not going to trip and fall on those. And any type of other clutter that you may have around your house, again, just making sure that we aren't setting them on, again, back to newspapers, letters, things. Sometimes if you have stairs in your house or you have something to bring upstairs, maybe you went to the grocery store and you brought shampoo or something and you have a bag, you set it on the stairs, we forget about it. How many times do you walk up and down the stairs just leaving it there thinking I'll take it up the next time, and then you forget later, maybe it's darker out, there's not as good of lighting in your home, and you forget you could hit that and that can cause a fall. So just really being aware of your surroundings and what you're doing. I mentioned lighting really briefly, so another thing is maybe improving lighting. Do you have night lights in your home? Can you put it around the path maybe from your bedroom to your bathroom so that you're able to see that a little bit more? In my house, I have a couple outlets where one side is the outlet and the other side is actually a night light. So the second it gets a little bit darker in that room, that night light will show. So that might be something that you get in your bedrooms or your bathrooms or any kind of a major walkway that you're using in the evenings or in the early mornings so that you can see a little bit better. Always remember to turn on lights when you're going up and down stairs. Stairs especially can be kind of dangerous with that. And then make sure that you're going to your eye doctor about once a year to make sure that we're getting our eyes checked and that we are good and nothing has changed, which could cause us to fall around the home as well. Okay, non-slip mats in the bathtub, making sure that if you are standing up in the bathtub, sometimes they get really slick, right? So you can actually go and you can buy little non-stick slippers or non-slip stickers, there we go. And you can put those down on the bottom of that tub so you're not sticking around, because some of us don't want to have the shower mats on there, but you can still get those and they have kind of a rough surface, so you don't have to worry about standing in that tub. You get a little bit of soap on it. What happens, your feet are out from underneath you, and the next thing you know, you're sitting in the tub. Maybe nobody is there to try to come and help you out. So there's many times where that's a big culprit of a lot of the falls that we go on. It has to do with the bathroom. Have grab bars that are installed in your wall of the tub and the shower, and also next to the toilet is a great place to have those. If you have any water or spills on the floor, make sure that you're wiping those up quickly. If you have any rugs in the bathroom floor or actually on any kind of a surface in your home, make sure that they've got the rubber backing on those. Make sure that you are also, it's your home, so you're going to be familiar with it. But you might go from carpet to tile to wood. Sometimes there might be a little lip when you go from one floor to another. Or think about it too, if you're at the grocery store or maybe you're at a restaurant and it goes from one type of flooring to another. Just make sure that you are aware of any kind of uneven surfaces around those areas. Again, they're mentioning throw rugs here, making sure that they have kind of a sticky bottom. If you think about some of those rugs that don't have it, you step on it just right and they're right back. Again, you're on the floor, right? So you want to be really careful with those. If you have any of those, remove them from your home or get one of those sticky things that you can put underneath it to keep that rug in place. If you have any wrinkles in your carpeting, make sure that those are smoothed out, because even if you know in a lot of older carpetings, you can get them re-stretched, right? So it's, again, lying flat, because after it's down for a while, sometimes you get those ripples and things in that carpet. And sometimes that teeny little spot is just enough that we didn't pick up our foot just right, and we can fall with that. Again, also if you're outside walking, especially this time of year or in the spring as the weather's changing, those sidewalks, they can move with the weather, right? As after the ground freezes and then it expands again, you used to have a perfectly nice sidewalk, and now all of a sudden there's a piece that's up that's about an inch or so, and you didn't know it and you hit it just right. And again, I'm walking my dog, I hit that and I trip and fall, right? I love my dog, but he's a trip hazard. Also, ask your friend to clear any ice or snow from stairs and walkways. So if you can't do it yourself, make sure that you have someone that you can call on that can help you with that. Just making sure that none of that snow and ice that could cause a fall is out there for you. Again, making sure that your stairs, I mentioned that they're a big hazard, making sure that they're well lit. So sometimes people will actually take the lights, and you can put one on each stair too. It might be censored, so as you're walking down, the lights will come up, or just making sure that you're always flipping on the overhead light anytime you're walking on stairs. Make sure that you have handles on both sides as well, so you have something to hold on to as you're going up and down the steps. Shoes, what kind of shoes you wear is going to be extremely important. If you have a fear of falling or have fallen in the past, you know that wearing flip-flops, not the best idea for shoes. Some people don't like closed shoes, but you can still find nice, sturdy sandals that you can wear that aren't flip-flops, that are going to be some sort of a trip hazard as well. Again, with those, you get just the lip just right on some sort of a crack or anything, and those can catch that shoe and send you falling too. Lots of things to think about with falling. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open the floor. So if anybody has any kind of questions, another thing that wasn't mentioned in here about falling, but something that is a good reminder, I've had people tell me that in their garages, sometimes we have 1 or 2 steps and they don't have a railing there, but they've put a grab bar right next to that door to get into their house from their garage, so they have something to grab onto. Because many times, if you're like me, you're not just carrying one bag of groceries at the time, but you're trying to figure out how many can I carry in one arm or both arms, and then trying to maneuver the handle. So what you want to do is put that grab bar right there and just grab a bag or 2. It's safer to be going with smaller loads into the house than with your arms filled with things and trying to get into the home as well. So that grab bar right there is also a good idea. All right, with that, I'll open it up then to questions. Does anybody else have any suggestions for maybe anything with fire safety or anything with falls that you want to share with everybody? Maybe something you've done in your home? Yes?
I know 2 women that put their purses on the floor in the car. On your side, you think you're protecting it, like you stop at the gas station and put it on the floor. Next to you, both women have tripped on the strap and broken their elbows while in the car. So you should not put your purses with the straps on the floor to protect it.
Right.
You know, you have to come up with a different solution.
That's a good one. I'm going to use that in this class.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anybody else have any ideas or something that they've heard that have caused that? Or ideas around your house when it comes to fire safety? Maybe something that you do when you're cooking to remind yourself that you have something, or did I cover most of them? No, we're not waiting until we see smoke or smell something that's burned.
I like the one with the stairs where you have a rail on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
I only have one on one side.
Yeah, mine is only one side right now too, but it's definitely handy to have them on both sides. Sometimes Even again, when we're sick or on certain medications, our balance maybe isn't quite as good as it normally is. So to have that ability on both sides, or maybe one side of your body is a little bit stronger than the other. And so when you only have a railing on one side, what about when you're going down the stairs and maybe your right side is a little bit weaker? You're going to want to make sure that you have railings on both sides just to help you out with that too. All right. Any other questions?
We've had a number of people that have used space heaters and have accidentally used a throw blanket and put it on their lap and found that that had caught on fire. And we were just talking a couple of years ago, we had an incident where we worked on a home and the gentleman had the space heater next to the bed and in the middle of the night tossed the blanket off of them and ended up catching on fire. So
Right.
yeah, especially with space heaters.
Yep, space heaters.
There's a tendency of keeping them a little bit close to curtains.
Right.
And blankets.
I know I've seen some people that put like towels or something over top of their lamps to make it darker in the room or thing, but think that light bulb, it's going to get hot, right? And what happens when things start to heat, they heat up everything around them and then there's a fire that started. Luckily, I haven't seen that too often anymore, but I do remember we probably did it as a child and my parents probably hated me for it. But just little things that we learn and lots of little tips. So hopefully you at least took something away today, or maybe a reminder next time you're cooking. Some of those things that I've done in the past or I've heard other people say that they do are all good tips so we don't forget something that is in the stove or on top of the stove.
I know a few people that have bought like tennis shoes that they don't wear outside,
Okay, yeah.
and they just wear them
To wear in the
and
house.
They have better grip all the time.
Absolutely. Things with slippers too, or even your socks, you can get some that have grippers on them so they're not as slick when you're walking around. Those are always good. All right. I guess if nobody has any other ideas or questions or anything, then that's it. Did you have anything you wanted to say since we're in your home?
No, thank you all for coming again.
Okay.
This is good.
Good. I'm glad you like it.
I like this, thank you.
You're welcome.